Exclamation, everybody, and welcome back to Cube Ramblings. For me, it is Saturday night, October the 3rd, 2015. Had to quickly look over there and remember that the month has changed. I hope everybody's been having a great week, and I hope when all is said and done here that this ends up actually being a Cube Ramblings episode, because as of about 5 minutes ago, I realized when I went to start recording this that I don't have any footage actually recorded yet. So we're pushing midnight now, so this is going to be a very, very interesting interesting night for me, or early morning for me, coming up here, because I'm going to have to record the footage after the fact and get it rendered and all that stuff, and hopefully get it uploaded and out by 10:30 tomorrow morning, which is going to be a push, but we'll see what happens. Maybe Google will be a pleasant surprise here, and they'll actually upload and render everything a lot faster than they normally do. We'll see. But yeah, the problems of the YouTuber first world. YouTuber problems. I've been up to playing lots of games recently. I've purchased quite a lot of indie games recently. There's not a whole lot as far as news goes, which is kind of a bummer. It's been like there's news, but it's not really anything interesting. It's a lot of updates on existing things, but I have pulled out a few things here and there that I think would be kind of cool to talk about, or at least not boring anyway. As well as some of the stuff that I've been playing and doing. Today, most of the reason why I don't actually have anything recorded as far as CubeRaw footage right now, as I speak, is because I just spent about just over 4 hours recording a Deus Ex Invisible War. So I've got 4 more hours in the bag for that, and Invisible War kind of pulls this thing that a lot of games do, where it hypes you up for meeting a certain person, and then you figure by the time you get to that, it'll be like the end of the game, and you'll start to make choices and all that stuff. And then they go and pull but now there's 4 more hours, 4 more hours to go or so, which I knew that would be the case, because there's certain locations that I was expecting to see along the way that I didn't, because I have read how the game ends and all that stuff. I think it's foggy in my head, but when I started playing again, I thought that I had completed the game way back in the day. It turns out that I must have gotten as far as the Trier, Germany map, which is what I spent most of my time on today recording. And I must have stopped at some point along the way, because there are some things that I remember, and there are some things that I just don't remember at all. So I don't know if that's... I have a feeling that I didn't actually complete the game back in the day, but I did, I do know how it ends, all the different endings and all that stuff, and kind of how you get to them, maybe vaguely, but and there's a certain location that I know you're supposed to hit along the way that they've just now, in my playthrough today, mentioned for the first time. So I know that there's still quite some time to go left on that, which is great. That's fine. I have no problem with that. It's one of those little things that games do sometimes, is like they hype you up for this one encounter, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, right, there's more game here. Welcome to more end game stuff, which is, when it's pulled off right, it's good, but it's also very hard to plan things with. But yeah, I've spent 4 hours recording that. And then on Friday nights, I did, instead of doing the Mad Max stuff, I'll get back into Mad Max probably next week. But or even, like an off kilter, like maybe not on Friday, maybe on some other day. But it's, I got to that point at the end of the last live stream where it was like you have to, in order to get past the one main mission, you have to build an archangel ride, as they call them, which is basically just a car that's got certain attributes about it. The problem is I don't quite understand it. And so I was struggling a bit with it, and I wanted to just kind of take a break from it, and maybe tomorrow, if I get like a couple minutes, I want to just look into it and see what I was doing there and whether I was doing it correctly or not, and maybe read up something on it or something like that, because it was bugging me. I was like, well, I don't really get what this is asking me to do or why I have to do it this way. It's like, I get that maybe it wants to show me that this is a thing, but why am I being forced to do it? Because I really want the car that I had. I really want to keep that one, not build another one. But that's it feels like I'm still, even though I'm about 9 hours into that game, it still feels like I'm in or even 12 hours into that game now. It still feels like it still feels like the training wheels are on for some reason. That annoys me. It's like, you know what? Just get your damn training done. Get it done and over with as fast as you can. Don't drag it out. I get that you want to, introduce one mechanic at a time and those kinds of things, but just enough's enough. When you're 12 hours into a game, at some point you just gotta say, okay, how this game works. I'm not going to give you any more tutorial stuff. But that's the case with that, and obviously you want to get back into Borderlands too. I just it's taken me a while to do things here. If you haven't noticed, a lot of my videos, in fact, the vast majority of my videos now are going out at 60 FPS, which I've resisted doing a lot of because it's very time consuming. To give you an example, a Cube World episode like this, if it goes for the typical hour and 8 minutes or so, I render it out at 720p and 30 frames per second. Now, I originally started doing Cube World at 720p because my old monitor wouldn't get me 1080p. Now that I have a 1080p monitor, I technically could record at 1080p, but the reason I don't is the length of time of the rendering. So to give you an example, for a 720p hour and 8 minute Cube World episode, it takes me approximately, I would say, an hour and 5 minutes. Is that right? No, it's more like, for 720p, it's more like 50 minutes. It'll take about 50 minutes to render that episode, which is good because obviously there's an hour and 8 minutes of recording, and it's being rendered in less time than there is recording in it. So that's always a good thing. But if I were to, if we look at some of the other games I play, we'll take, for instance, Soul Zero. I've started recording that at 1080p, 60 frames per second. And I usually play, my typical length of a video on that is about 40 minutes or so, 40 to 45 minutes. So at 45 minutes at 1080p would take me about 50 to 55 minutes to render out at 1080p with 30 frames per second. That's about how long it would take. At 1080p with 60 frames per second, it would be double that. I mean, quite literally double that. So instead of 50 minutes, it would be 100 minutes, basically. So the same thing is true with a lot of stuff I'm doing now, where I'm in a new pattern now where I'll render something, or I'll edit it, and then I'll set them to render, and then go to bed, and if I happen to get up in the middle of the night because I'm old and pee breaks are a thing, don't get all the kids. So it's if that's a thing, then I'll end up kicking off the uploads for them. Otherwise, when I wake up in the morning, I go and kick off the uploads and hope that it gets out there and processed before the 10:30 in the morning, my first slot there. And if it doesn't, I have them scheduled so it'll just go live at the earliest convenience it can after that time period. So occasionally you'll see things go out a little bit later than normal, and that's just the reason why. It just took forever and a day to get them uploaded and all that stuff. So that is the perils again of YouTubers. But with all that said, I don't have I just recorded, like I said, my last episode of Deus Ex Invisible War was the remainder of all the stuff I had recorded. So I recorded 4 more hours of it today, which means I don't have anything rendered for tomorrow, and I still got to render this for tomorrow. So, and this is going to take precedence. So yeah, I got my work cut out for me right now. But the nice thing with the Deus Ex thing is I could just move that back slots until it fits. So if it has to go back to 6 p.m., it'll go back to 6 p.m. That is all there is for that, because it goes out every single day. So I figure it's not that big a deal. I still have to render Witcher stuff too, the Witcher 3 stuff. And I want to record a little bit more before I actually render out what I've got. But I do have enough, I think, to render out for the week. If I can get around to doing it. Like I said, everything's taking up so much time now rendering that I'm not getting the time to do it anymore. So I have to, which means I have to cut into the time that I would record things, or in my case, I should just sit down and record a bunch of things ahead of time. So I have some time to do those other things. So that's a thing. Like I've been waiting, until Mondays to record Soul Zero, just because I want to give the dev as long a time as I can to release new updates and stuff, so that we're always running on the latest and greatest, at least as far as the series goes. If not, I'm only one episode out from it. So that's what I've been doing on that. And then now that I'm playing Concrete Jungle, which it was a lot of fun, I have to sort of balance those two things at the same time. I actually recorded both of those on the same night. I somehow managed to do that. It was rather incredible. I had over an hour of recording Soul Zero for the last 2 tutorials, and then went and recorded like 45 minutes or so of Concrete Jungle right after that. So if it sounds like if my voice had sounded like, it was starting to give way at some point there, it was just like it is right now. It is. I am, after speaking for about 4 hours and then trying to do this, it can be just a bit taxing here and there, but it's, I'm really enjoying that. That's one of those things. Concrete Jungle's already released, so I can record a whole boatload of that if I can just sit down and do it, which I'm hoping to do. Maybe I can get that in tomorrow. We'll see. With all the cold weather out there now, I don't need to necessarily deal with some of the outdoor stuff. So that is that's always a fun thing. Not having to deal with that. I'm not a green thumb type of person. Plants and stuff are not really my forte, along with trying to, mow the lawn and stuff. I do it, but I don't enjoy it. So we've got that's what I've been working on there. Still got a ways to go yet on Deus Ex, and I could see the areas where people have the most problems with that game, as far as some of the things that it does, and I could see it. It still has not yet ruined itself in my mind. Like, having played as much of it as I have, I still like the game. I actually really do. It's got a lot of nagging issues with it, like having so many load screens, and then also on top of that requiring people to backtrack a bunch. That's not fun, but it it's pretty funny. When I was editing out the last recording session I did was 2 hours, just over 2 hours, and that I edited down into 2 videos. Literally, the last 2 videos you saw of Deus Ex was the last 2 hours of recording, and those videos are, I think they were like 40 minutes each, roughly. So I sort of mercilessly just chopped through those things as much as I could. Got them down to just the very bare basics, where I'm just like following up on all the threads and closing out all the threads and everything else, because most of that footage that I recorded was just literally walking between the various pieces and trying to get to where you're going and having loading screens and all that stuff. So yeah, that is a bit of probably the biggest annoyance, something that probably, pushed most of the people away from Deus Ex Invisible War. But it's, all that said, using the mods that I have, like the widescreen and the texture pack, really does give it a good little facelift and make it, I mean, it still looks dated. It still operates dated, but it's not as necessarily as jarring with the fresh coat of paint. So it's cool stuff, and I'm continuing with that. At some point, I will also play Deus Ex The Fall. I started to record it at one point, and which was like the mobile app game that they released after Deus Ex Human Revolution, which nobody played Deus Ex The Fall, as far as I know, because it sucked. And I started playing like 5 to 10 minutes of it, and I'm like, yeah, let me put this back on the shelf for a little while, and I'll come back to it, because it was a bit rough to get the hang of. But I do intend on playing that as well. I really want to, at some point on the channel, have every Deus Ex game that I own recorded and put out there. I've been waiting to do the original Deus Ex. I did do a bunch of live streams way back in the day. There's no archives of them. I wasn't recording at the time. Oops, sorry, I hit the mic there, if that translated. I didn't. I wasn't saving archives at that time from Twitch, so you won't see those. But I did start a playthrough of the original Deus Ex on a live stream, and I got to like Battery Park. I think I got a little bit past Battery Park, and then I kind of put it aside for a bit and said, I'll come back to this. And I've been waiting to come back to it because, even though I've played it all the way through before, and that one I know for sure I've played all the way through. It does take a little bit of adjustment because it really doesn't hold up too well over the years. Mechanically, it's still sound, but there are things about it that just kind of are a bit annoying still to this day. That said, I've been waiting to do an actual Let's Play of that, because there is a mod coming out called Deus Ex Revision, and it's kind of sitting in limbo right now, and I suspect it's all legal limbo at this point, where the maintainers of this, basically a total conversion, where they've taken a bunch of mods that were out in the community that improved the textures, and they went, they cranked it to 11 and started redoing not only all the textures and all the objects, but also all the maps. They've like improved some maps. They've made some maps a little bit more expansive. They've got a whole nother soundtrack that they've put in there. Although you can still gain access to the original soundtrack, which is good, because the original soundtrack was baller, really. I am interested to know what they've done with the remake too. But waiting for that, the last update in that was last update for that, I think, was in August, maybe September, early September, where they said all the testing is done and they're almost ready to go, but they're waiting on some legal stuff. I think they tried to get in contact with probably Square Enix. I would imagine whoever owns the Deus Ex franchise now, which I think is all Square Enix now. And because it used to be Ion Storm, and then Ion Storm was bought by Square Soft, I think, and then Square Enix had their whole merger, something along that lines. It's a sordid history of how things end up in the places that they end up at, and so waiting for that to properly come out. I still haven't seen any notification yet that they've released anything. So legal things tend to take a long time to do. I think they were trying to get permission to release it. They're as far as I know, it's going to be a freebie thing, and you have to own the Game of the Year edition, which most people do at this point. I think that's the edition that's even out on GOG. So you have to own that because it's like a total conversion of that, as far as I know. That's what it looks like anyway. But they want to make sure that they were, not going to run into legal problems by releasing it. And lawyers take forever and a day. So we've been waiting in a holding pattern, I think, for a couple months now. So I'm hoping that everything's going to come through successfully on that, and then we'll be able to play through Deus Ex Revision. I was planning on doing something really ridiculous and crazy, which I may not end up doing. But the ridiculous and crazy thing I was thinking of doing was actually playing the game through twice. Once as the unmodified version, and have that in the corner of the screen, and then sync that up with the modified version, and then you can see how things have changed, which might not work. It might be it might be all that work for no actual benefit. I don't know. And the revision mod has added areas that don't exist in the original game, so there would be parts where there wouldn't be anything to show from the original game, but and with how things change from one playthrough to the next, it would be very hard to sync things up and all that stuff. But I don't know. It's a thought I had rolling around in my head that I may never end up capitalizing on, but it was a thought nonetheless that might be interesting to try to embark upon. So yeah, I was talking about the live stream on Friday I did. I took a break from Mad Max because I was having problems, like I said, and I played a game called Starship Rampage, which has just been released on Steam a few days ago, and it's a bullet hell game with some roguelike aspects to it, where you can build your ship. You start out with a ship. You are a rogue AI, and you're trying to return to Earth, but you have forgotten two of the three Asimov laws for AIs. So you don't try to protect humans or anything like that. You're actually destroying a bunch of humans as you come back, make your way back to Earth. And you get this big galactic map that has nodes on it, just like you would in like FTL or it's actually a lot closer to Ironcast, where you have a node that you're sitting on, and then the other nodes, you don't know how many nodes are come out of that guy yet until you actually are sitting on it, and then you move to the next one, and then you don't know how many nodes, how many other stars are connected to that one yet until you actually move to it. And it's got as you destroy enemies, you can pick up data cubes, which give you information on stars that contain, or areas that contain power-ups, good power-ups and stuff, and they'll show up on the map, and then you can try to work your way towards them. And as you get further along in the game, just like in FTL, there's a huge hunkin' fleet that starts to follow you and try to catch up with you, that will pretty much decimate you if you if you don't keep moving forward. Which I mean, I get it. They don't want you to keep being able to jump back and forth all the time and just grind out stuff. But I feel like that's an overused concept now. I kind of feel like it's better that not be in a game and just let you have the free reign to jump around, spend as much time as you want in the world, and keep pressing your luck as much as you possibly can, rather than trying to do that. But I guess the point of that is you do get to a point where you're so overpowered that you can't really be destroyed that easily. So they need to add that for an additional challenge, I guess. I don't know. It's or they're trying to purposely make you, mess up by forcing you to move forward even if you're not quite ready yet. So I can kind of see where they were going with that, and I get it. It's part of the genre now, but it still irks me a bit every time I see it. I'm like, I don't really dig that too much. I dig the random nodes that you can jump to and try to do things and try to get power-ups and stuff, and you learn locations of that. I like all that stuff. The interface, the building construction interface can be a little bit clunky at times when you're just using a keyboard, because the game mostly just uses keyboard. But once you get used to it, once you get the hang of it, it's not so bad. It's just that initial getting the hang of it. In fact, they have an extended tutorial of just trying to get the hang of that particular construction interface. It's the thing that I noticed about it, and the reason I mention this is I'm probably going to do a side quest video on this. But one of the things I noticed was that the difficulty spikes pretty badly at one point, where you're facing these areas that say, okay, the difficulty is hard or very hard or medium or something like that, but they lie, because early on in the game, all things say like medium or very hard or stuff like that, and you can get through them pretty easily. But then you get certain nodes in, and they all say the same thing, yet you're getting completely decimated every time you go through them, and that's a bit jarring about the game itself. But I still pretty much enjoyed it. I don't usually go too much for the bullet hell games, because there's not a whole lot of innovation necessarily that happens there. But this seemed really cool, and I like the idea, and it actually, they've pulled it off pretty well. So I expect that I'll probably start a new game on that, and now that I've tried it out a bit, and be able to record a side quest video of that probably this week, unless I decide to pick other things. But I'll probably do that at least for one episode this week. So you can expect that to come up and see what that's like, or you can go over to the Memory Leak Doom channel and take a look at it over there. I've got the whole live stream up on an archive. Memory Leak Doom on YouTube, or Memory Leak Death on Twitch or Hitbox. I have the highlights up there as well if you want to watch there. So, all that said, and all that cross promotion and all that stuff, some news that did come out this week. A Humble Bundle, the humble guys, the Humble Store, humble this, humble that. They've come out with a concept that's been around for a long time, but it's slightly different in its execution. But the concept itself has been around, and that is they're coming out with a monthly subscription service. And with that monthly subscription service, you get a bundle of games that will not be announced ahead of time. So, but what they said is it's going to be a bundle of games that they have never offered as part of a Humble Bundle, at least in one, in the previous, in previous iterations and stuff, or a weekly bundle or anything like that. So it's, on the surface, it sounds intriguing, but also there's a lot of there's a lot of backlash about it, and rightfully so. I mean, there's it doesn't sound like a great value, because especially for someone like me who's got a lot of indie games already from a lot of the other Humble Bundles, plus, you know, I buy them routinely. It's more than likely, given how many games I already own, that there will be duplicates in there, just like there's a lot of duplicates from the Humble Bundles as it is now. And the quality of the last couple Humble Bundles has been pretty bad. It's been pretty bad for a while, but it's been particularly bad the last couple times around, where it's just like, wow, I don't really, none of the games in this particular bundle are very appealing. But that said, I decided that I would do it at least for a little bit, maybe for a couple months, and see what it's like. So I signed up for it. I will possibly, it really depends on what I see there, I will possibly do a video of what's in them, because they're not physical products, they're just the digital stuff. So I might like sit down for 5 minutes in each game or something like that and put them all into one video and say, well, here's what's in this monthly one, if it's any good. If the stuff I get in it is stuff that I've already done, or just duplicates, or it's just general crap, then that will never see the light of day. Let's put it that way. But in the process of reading about this, and I'll leave you a link that gives you more information about the Humble stuff. There isn't a whole lot of information about what's going to be in it, or how many games are going to be in it, or anything like that. I have no idea. But there was a link on the Rock Paper Shotgun article that I've left below, that to something called Indie Box. And I went over there and I started looking at that, and that's more of a physical media thing, where they will actually take these, you know, digital games, and they'll throw them on a thumb drive, a styled thumb drive or whatever, or they'll give you a Steam key, or however distribution method they've come up with, and then they'll throw a bunch of physical rewards in the box. So the box is like one game, and then it's styled around that game. So they'll give you the game itself or a key to it, and then all kinds of stuff around, like patches and stickers. And there was one for the Luftrausers one game where they had like a little plastic or foam paper airplane that you could put together in it. So on and so forth. They custom paint their boxes, the box cover art and all that stuff. And I looked at it and I was like, that would be interesting if it was more than one game. You know, if it's just one game and, you know, $15, like I could see where the money's going for, because they have to spend a lot to produce that stuff, and also the mailing and stuff. But it still feels like I would end up just getting things that are just crap, right? Like it sort of falls in the realm of Loot Crate for me, right? Like I see these Loot Crate videos out there, and the initial, the first part of my brain that looks at Loot Crate goes, hey, that'd be kind of cool if there's like video game related things that, you know, are physical rewards that you just get on a monthly basis. And, you know, for a video game geek, that's kind of I can see the appeal there. There's the other part of me that looks at it and goes, there's a whole lot of crap in those boxes, like utter crap. Like I think the one that you're seeing right now that's out doing the rounds has like a Pikachu hat in it or something. I'm like, what? Why? I get it. It's the winter is coming. I understand, but it's just it feels like those are things that are just not very collector worthy, right? You know, it feels like if you're going to do a box like that, it feels like there should be collector's stuff in there, things that collectors themselves would actually care about. You know, like figurines and patches, and, you know, iron-on patches and stamps, maybe. I don't know. I'm just trying to think of things. Maybe manuals, Since most games don't have manuals anymore, they're all like, either wiki pages or they're just in-game tutorials. Like if somebody went and that would be a fantastic idea, actually. I think I just had a fantastic idea, and it'll probably never ever happen. But if somebody went and took, old games had some of the old games had some really good effort put into their manuals, right? And it's something that has been lost over the years. It's something that you occasionally see it like, oh, here's a PDF manual that's kind of nice, but it just gives you the basics and nothing more. They're really an afterthought anymore, because with the proliferation of like in-game tutorials. Not that there's anything wrong with an in-game tutorial, but occasionally the manuals themselves give you a better sense of the universe. The particularly good manuals give you a better sense of the universe. I'm thinking in particular, Wing Commander games, Wing Commander 3 and 4 had really good. 4's manual was okay, but they had a lot of supplemental stuff in it that would just go through, like the fighters themselves that you would fly. You get all the statistics. There was like a little poster that fold out poster that you had that came with it, and Wing Commander 3 in particular had the sort of the manual that it was written in a style of a pilot's manual, kind of like, here's familiarizing yourself with your ship and familiarizing yourself with the universe. And they had like character pieces that they put into it. It was like, they had, for the earlier games, they had claw marks, which was like since your character flew off of the tiger's claw, it was written in the style of like a newsletter that would be passed out to tiger's claw crewmen, and as to keep them up to speed with the goings on the carrier and the big names and the pilots and all that stuff. And there was a lot of effort put into that. Another one that sticks in my mind is the what was the name of that game now? I just had it in my head and it's gone now. Star Crusader, that's what it is. The game that I played through on my channel a long time ago. That had a particularly good manual. I actually dug the manual up for that so I could get the keys off of it, because I couldn't remember what keys did what. But in that one, it actually went into in depth about the races. Like, here's the Goreens, and here's why they are malevolent conquerors of the known universe, and here's what they think and how they act. And then it goes into all the other alien races, the Amians and the Mizumas and the Tancreds, and then it gives you a little bit of backstory. It mostly focuses on the Goreens, because that's the faction that you start out as. That's who you are. Your pilot is a Goreen. But it gives you information like, the distance counter, for instance, in the game, it's not kilometers, it's kavums, because that was the distance between the Goreen homeworld and their moon, and one unit on that is that distance. And then that's why when you get up close to other ships, it's doesn't, those numbers don't correspond necessarily to something that's realistic. You know what I mean? You get down to 0.01 and then it kind of sits there for a little bit, and you still have some room to maneuver. But it was really cool to see all the little explanations that they make in there. And if there was a service that went through indie games and not only gave you access to the indie game, maybe did some artwork and stuff, but basically just took that indie game and, with the help of the developers, just made a manual, right? And if a physical box had several manuals in it for several different games, like if they could combine them, like if Loot Crate was that, if Loot Crate was, here's, USB thumb drives with the games on them, and here is the, like manuals, full color art manuals with, background stories and everything else, everything you'd want out of a good manual, working with the developers and getting all that into a written, printed form. That would probably be rather fantastic. I could see that being something that a lot of video game geeks would probably sign up for, right? Because it's just, that is sort of the payoff, right? Or, even some figurines, I guess, too, would be a bit of a payoff on that. But that would be, I think, the ultimate payoff, right? Is at least having that manual and the USB thumb drive or whatever, or CD or whatever, DVD, whatever the case may be, in your hands with all the artwork and all that stuff. But I digress. That's that's the way I look at that. I've decided to try to give the Humble Monthly a shot. I usually give Humble Bundle a pass on a lot of things because I've always thought that they were a pretty good company. I haven't had any problems with them. In fact, early on, back when I bought, I think, the Humble Bundle 1 or 2 or something like that, there was a problem with PayPal when I tried to pay for it, and I sent out a support request to the Humble guys and got a response almost immediately and got it resolved almost immediately. I mean, they had really good customer support, at least back then. I assume it continues to this day. So I always tend to give them a pass on a lot of things. I know a lot of people look at this and they go, "Oh, this is just a money grab. This is a terrible idea," and rightfully so. It does seem like it's going to be a terrible idea, but the only way I'm going to know is if I try it, I think. So I'm going to give it a shot and see what happens, since these guys have been pretty good about things normally. Although the last few bundles really haven't been as curated as they probably should be. There's a lot of to be fair, a lot of bundles have those 1 or 2 crap games in them that nobody likes. But recently it's been like 3 or 4 titles in there that nobody likes or that are repeated, that we already have copies of from many other different bundles. So I wanted to mention that. That is some news that came out this week. Also, some more news related to Deus Ex, since we've been talking a lot of Deus Ex in this episode here. Deus Ex Mankind Divided. The Square Enix came out this week and said, "Oh yeah, all you guys, how you had problems with that, how we're doing the pre-order stuff on that, where it's like augment your pre-order, and they had these pre-order tiers and stuff." And I mentioned this in passing in one episode, and I decided not to talk about it for a little bit because I had a feeling that they would, with the backlash that was coming from gamers about this crazy pre-order tier things where you had to pick which reward you want from each tier, and it was confusing and not really well thought out. I had a feeling that they were going to backpedal on it, and they did. They did this week. They decided that Square Enix decided that no, we're just going to go back to regular pre-order stuff. So, you're just going to get it. If you buy the collector's edition, you get everything. If you don't, you just get whatever. If you've already, bought into the campaign that they had going on, you'll get everything as though it was a collector's edition, so on and so forth. They'll take care of you, that kind of thing. So that said, we go back to it. They've reverted back to a normal-ish pre-order thing, and I will probably, as much as everybody hates pre-orders, I will probably pre-order Deus Ex Mankind Divided, because either way I'm going to buy it, either day one or not, and more than likely I'm going to forget what day it comes out. So by pre-ordering it, at least I know it's there. It's popping up in my face like, hey, this is about to be installed and all that stuff. So that's the way I view it. I know a lot of people don't like pre-orders and stuff, and rightfully so. They are a bit of a racket, a bit of a scam, if you will, because you don't know what you're going to get. But given that I have money to spare, I figure, why not? It's going to be a game that I'm going to play anyway. Hell, I'm playing Deus Ex Invisible War, the game that everybody hates, that I actually kind of like. So it's, my taste is certainly different than the masses as far as that goes. So I have a much higher tolerance of interesting mechanics, I will say, than than probably most others do. Another game that I'm starting to look at, which I probably will do a side quest video on. It'll be an extended side quest video, probably like an hour or two when I do it. And I don't know if I'll do it this week or next week, but else heart.break just came out on the 24th, actually, of September. And I picked it up. It's like an RPG with some programming in it, or as they call it, a hacking mechanic, where you actually write program code with a language that the developer made up. Because of that, I decided, well, being a programmer, that immediately is something that I'm interested in, because I want to see how they've done it. I want to see if they do it any justice. TIS 100 was the last one I did, and that actually did quite a lot of justice to assembly language, and still making something really accessible and fun. And so I tend to gravitate towards these just to see if they're doing it right or not. And I played about 20 minutes of the game and still didn't get to any of the hacking, so that's why I say it's probably going to be an extended look at it to try to get all that in. So I will be looking at that at some point, probably this week, but maybe if it's not this week, next week, because there's another game that I want to take a look at that I've picked up called 80 Days. And this is from Inkle Studio. That's the one studio that I've been playing it does mostly visual novels. And I've played what is the name of that game? There's a game that I've been playing on the channel that the series will continue at some point in the future. I have to get back around to it. But it was like it was on a mobile device. It was a visual novel type of thing, where it had a little bit of combat in it and stuff. And so given Inkle's been pretty good with that stuff, I decided to pick up 80 Days. I've heard there's good things about it. It's like a steampunk take on around the world in 80 days with alternate universe stuff. So it's now out on PC. So I want to do that. It's been out on mobiles for a while, but I didn't want to do it on mobile. I figured I'll do it here on the PC. That'll be a little bit more fun for me. So I'm interested in digging into that too. So we'll see when I can dig into that or not. And I'll leave you links to all this stuff that you can read up on, so you can read up some more information about what these games are and where they come from, and whether or not they're hopefully any good. All right. So I think so. I have a few more things. Let's touch upon this next thing, and then these next two things, and then I might end it a little bit early, just because I need to still record footage and stuff. Minecraft Story Mode is coming out on October the 13th. From the latest that I've seen, I'll leave you a link to Rock Paper Shotgun. There is a reason why I'm leaving mostly links to Rock Paper Shotgun this week, because they've actually, of all the news organizations out, or news bloggers, or whatever they're calling themselves these days, they've actually had the most information in their articles this week, whereas the other ones have been just like one paragraph that doesn't tell you much of anything, the other major outlets. So that is why you're seeing a lot of that. You're seeing a lot of RPS this week. So Minecraft Story Mode, the article I'm looking to has the trailer on it, so you can see what it's all about. I will be playing that when it comes out. I've already got it pre-ordered. I'm not sure what to expect. It is a Telltale game, so I know what to expect from that perspective. I don't know what to expect from a story perspective necessarily. So we'll see how it works or not. If it's annoying or not, we'll see. But I will be playing that on the channel when it comes out, more than likely, unless I get halfway through it and I'm like, this is crap and I don't want to deal with it. But I'll know that right away, because usually the episodes for Telltale games usually are about 2 hours long. So I sit down in one session and do them, generally speaking. So I wanted to put that out there. That's coming out very shortly in the next couple of days. About 10 days from now or so. 11 days, 9 days. And the folks who... let me see how I can put this here. A couple folks who used to work for Criterion Games created they used to be founders actually, created a company called Three Fields back in 2014. And they're in the process right now of working on some multiplayer sports game that I'm sure is going to be terrific. That's due next spring. But then they've been teasing the last couple of days that they're going to start working on a driving game after that. And they're teasing that it might be a spiritual successor to the Burnout series. And that, of course, for me is fantastic. I love the Burnout games. I haven't played all of them. I played Burnout Revenge, and I played Burnout Paradise. And I liked both of them a lot. I like Burnout Paradise a whole hell of a lot. I know there's a lot of people who are fans of the Burnout series who thought that was a big betrayal of Burnout because it was open world and not really what they wanted. But I thought it was fantastic. I love the open world stuff, especially with racing. There's not enough of that, honestly, I feel. But I also loved Revenge, and I played both of those on the 360, and then I also have Burnout Paradise on the PC. But yeah, I really enjoyed both of those. Burnout Revenge was more of the linear playthrough where you just had a series of race courses, and you just go from one to the other and do the various challenges. Like was that pile up, was it, or intersection challenge? I forget the actual name that they used for it, but it was you would launch vehicles at a pile up or launch vehicles at an intersection, and you tried to make as much damage as you could through the intersection. That's like Burnout Revenge. You would do that stuff, and I think some of the earlier games from that you used to do that too, but I never played them. And so they had those challenges like that, and the challenge was to get as much damage as you can with just by throwing one car into a mix, and they had all kinds of explosions that would happen and chain reactions and stuff. It was a lot of fun, actually. And then they had the normal like racing stuff that Burnout Paradise had, but with stunts. They also had stunt races and things of that nature, and it was pretty cool. I equally liked both of those games. So the idea of having another one come out possibly in a few years is quite nice, especially since Criterion themselves, who still exist as part of Microsoft, I believe, have come out and said that they're not really interested in Burnout anymore. So to hear that we might get some more from the ex Criterion people sounds rather fantastic to my ears. So I will link you to the Destructoid article this time that talks a little bit more about that and gives you some tips of places to go to get even more information about it. All right. I think, like I said, I think I'm going to end this one a little bit early. What are we doing here? Yeah, it's a little bit early. We're only about 54 minutes in. But thanks so much, everyone, for watching. And I will see you next Sunday.